Welcome back to Movie in Short. Today's recap film is titled Cased Apart. Two contemporary-appearing black males in designer underwear are auctioned off at the beginning of the film. They are restrained by their necks, and the area appears to be a slave market. Following this, a flashback to the beginning of the film occurs. It focuses on two estranged half-brothers from the West Indies, Regis and Joel Grossdesire, who lead quite different lives. Joel is a monoracial black man recently released from prison for stealing an elderly woman's pocketbook. Currently, he resides with his mother and daughter, who is 9 years old. He is chronically unemployed and blames racism for all his problems, including his unemployment. However, he has never actively sought employment. Regis, on the other hand, is a man of mixed race. He is married to a white woman, with whom he shares a 9-year-old daughter. He resides in a prosperous community and is well integrated into upper-class society. Regis is working at the local town hall and serves as the mayor's assistant. Regis receives a phone call from his uncle informing him that his father is dying and that his dying wishes to see all of his children. However, Regis disregards his absentee father, as he was never around while Regis was a child. He then has dinner with his family, but his wife threatens to sleep with other men if he does not pay one final visit to his father. Having no other option, he reluctantly accepts. The following day, Regis flies to his hometown, where his father lives. He encounters Joel, who has also traveled to see their father, at the airport. The brothers, who have not communicated for more than a decade, set aside their differences and share a taxi. In the taxi on the way to their father's house, they reunite. Regis reveals every detail of his prosperous life to Joel, whilst Joel tries to conceal his failings out of shame. When they arrive at their father's home, they meet their aunt and many half-sisters. It turns out that their father traveled the globe and had relationships with countless women. Consequently, this explains why Joel and Regis have distinct skin tones. The old man's eyes light up at the sight of his only two sons. Before passing away, he informs Regis and Joel that they will inherit a treasure of tremendous value. This delights the brothers, who eagerly await information regarding the riches. To their dismay, the only legacy they receive is an emancipation certificate for their forefathers. This document was given to a few slaves by their masters in recognition of an exceptional deed or act. Apparently, Regis and Joel's forefathers were awarded freedom in the West Indies long before slavery was abolished legally. Indifferent to the symbolic significance of this piece of paper, they mock the inheritance. Under the disapproving gaze of their deceased father's sister, they then sarcastically shred the paper, as anticipated. This infuriates the elderly mother, so she resolves to teach the children a lesson. She casts a voodoo spell on them and transports them back to the 17th century, when slavery was common. When Regis and Joel awaken in the following scene, they are wearing only their designer underwear in an open field. As the two individuals ponder what has occurred, a pair of terrified black individuals flee past them. Two slave hunters arrive at that moment and capture the Grossdesire brothers. They are subsequently transported to a slave market and sold to the landowner, Monsieur Jourdain. Jourdain assigns Joel to the farms, where he will work under the supervision of Henry, a violent and profoundly prejudiced foreman, while Regis is sent to the residence's kitchens. Soon, the half-brothers realize that they have actually traveled back in time to 1780, where slavery still exists. The following day, the slaves are forced to listen to a priest as he reads them a forged Bible that instructs blacks to submit to whites. However, because the Grossdesire brothers are the only non-whites who can read, they refuse to accept the contents. Even more surprisingly, Regis surprises the priest by reciting a passage from the book. Later that day, Joel arrives late to the field and is struck by Henry. Joel, fed up with Henry's torment and behavior, attempts to flee the farm but hits his head on a post and knocks himself unconscious. Because of his conduct, he is publicly reprimanded. That evening, Regis is summoned to Monsieur Jourdain's office, where his reading talent is recognized. Jourdain commends him for being a clever slave and grants him the authority to supervise the other slaves alongside Henry. In the meantime, Rosalie, a female slave, is tending to Joel's wounds. After only 5 minutes of meeting, Joel has already developed feelings for her. At an appropriate time, he leans in for a kiss, only to be rejected. Joel is disappointed when Rosalie discloses that she is in love with a fellow slave named Isidore. The following day, Regis fulfills his new responsibility and begins ordering and instructing other slaves to perform their tasks. Joel is astounded by his brother's white-like behavior and condemns him for being selfish. Regis, despite his indifference, is loyal to his new masters and reports his work to Monsieur Jourdain throughout the day. Eventually, everyone in the white household discovers Regis's reading aptitude and begins to taunt him. They also laugh about his ability to play the piano. Everyone is surprised by how well Regis plays the piano. However, this causes him to be severely flogged by the whites. Regis is now fed up with life on the estate. and the next morning, he and his brother depart the property by surreptitiously boarding the carriage of a Jewish man named Isaac. When they get at his location, Isaac approaches them and confesses that he was aware of their presence the entire time. As Jews are also victims of discrimination, the brothers implore him for forgiveness, but to their amazement, Isaac gives them with tremendous hospitality and care. The henchmen of Monsieur Jourdain will soon come at Isaac's residence in quest of the two brothers. But before they could be apprehended, Regis and Joel bid farewell to Isaac and escape out the back door. They travel to the coast, where they find an abandoned boat and set sail into the ocean. They encounter a ship used to bring slaves to auctions and are subsequently captured and imprisoned. The brothers Gros-Desire wind up in the same slave market, where they are purchased by Jourdain's thugs. On their journey back to the plantation, the boys are rescued by the Maroons, an African tribe. Here, it is revealed that every member of the tribe was once a slave before escaping their masters. The two are accepted into the tribe and begin chanting with the group's chief. Regis, however, who is married to a white woman, refuses to chant when the Maroons discuss killing the whites. This infuriates the tribe, who swiftly turns on the brothers. Fortunately, though, Regis and Joel are able to escape the tribe and reach safety. The following day, the two find themselves in an unfamiliar location when their aunt casts a spell on them. The brothers quickly discover that she was responsible for their return to the past. They beg her to remove the enchantment and express their willingness to do everything for it. The old woman initially refuses, but when the brothers persist, she gives them a hint. She informs them that the only way to return to the present is to return to the plantation and rejoin Isidore and Rosalie, their ancestors. She also instructs them to correct the error without additional explanation. Before vanishing, the woman leaves behind her special pipe and urges the brothers to smoke it upon completing their job successfully. Joel recalls seeing what appeared to be Isidore engaging in oral intercourse with another man during their brainstorming session on how to address the matter. He has also captured a video of the incident on his mobile device, which he presents to Regis. The two brothers are then persuaded that Isidore is homosexual and incorrectly assume that this is the fault they are tasked with correcting. Following this, Joel and Regis return to the plantation. They attempt to negotiate with Monsieur Jourdain on their penalty, but fail. Instead, they are tagged with the plantation's emblem. They then return to their shelters and begin planning their next move. Meanwhile, inside the mansion, the whites are celebrating Madame Jourdain's daughter's wedding. Seeing this as the ideal diversion, the brothers throw their own celebration for the slaves. They steal a cask of rum from the distillery in order to intoxicate themselves and spark a romance between Isidore and Rosalie. However, their scheme is thwarted when Regis witnesses Joel kissing Rosalie due to his infatuation for her. The two brothers then improvise and physically assist the couple in having intercourse while they are asleep. They are confident that their mission has been accomplished once this is completed. The brothers, believing they can return home at any time, plan to exact revenge on the whites. Armed, they enter the mansion where they humiliate everyone inside. Joel kisses Monsieur Jourdain's daughter, while Regis begins to destroy furniture and even slaps a white man. Henry enters the room brandishing a firearm and threatening the brothers. Regis and Joel continue to utilize the pipe while displaying no signs of anxiety. Unfortunately, nothing happens when they smoke it. It looks that the elderly woman's magical pipe has been replaced with an ordinary one. As punishment for their actions, they are incarcerated and sentenced to death the following day. That evening, the brothers become upset and begin to ponder their life choices. Regis discusses his failing marriage, while Joel admits to being destitute and unemployed. A few hours later, when the brothers are still sympathizing with one another, Henry arrives and leads them to the field where they would be executed. However, just prior to the execution, Victor, the son of Monsieur Jourdain, flees into the forest because he cannot bear to witness the scene. Rosaline pursues him and quickly discovers that he has fallen into the neighboring river. All family members panic and rush to the site. Isidore, however, takes advantage of the commotion and saves the brothers, knocking Henry unconscious in the process. He then commands them to flee for their lives, and they comply. As the brothers run, they encounter Victor being swept downstream by the stream. Without hesitation, the two rush into the perilous river. However, to Regis's shock, Joel cannot swim. This further complicates his mission, but he manages to save both his brother and Victor. Monsieur Jourdain is grateful to the brothers for saving his son's life, so he sets them free. The half-brothers are likewise granted the exact same deed of emancipation that their deceased father granted them. Instead of accepting their freedom and award, they ask Monsieur Jourdain to release Isidore and Rosalie and give them the papers. The monsieur finds the request extremely odd, but he nevertheless complies. In this manner, the brothers were able to rescue Isidore and Rosalie, but they have yet to locate the magical pipe that will allow them to return to the present. They gradually learn to understand that they may never return to their time as the days pass. One day, Isidore and Rosaline bid farewell to the brothers and depart the property with the documents. As they observe their departure from a distance, Henry approaches them and instructs them to return to work. He then pulls out his pipe and begins to smoke. When he attempts to humiliate the brothers by blowing smoke in their faces, they mysteriously vanish, much to Henry's surprise. The evidence suggests that Henry stole the pipe from them. In the subsequent scene, the boys return to the present, where their aunt is standing next to them. Regis and Joel feel reassurance when they see her clutching the actual document. A number of months pass by. Joel obtains a regular job on a construction site, where he continues to grumble about his low wage and how his race is to blame. Regis, meantime, resumes his work at the town hall. One day, as he is leaving his office, he is greeted by the mayor, who tells him a racial joke. Regis, no longer his former self, chooses to stand up to the mayor before storming off. The picture then shifts to Regis, his wife, Joel, and Joel's mother conversing in Regis's living room. The two agree that the experience drew them closer together as a family. However, a dispute between their different daughters causes the ripping of the emancipation decree. The film concludes with Regis and Joel frantically running towards their girls. Subscribe for similar content, enable notifications, and like the video to help the channel. Thank you for watching.